n'imipaka nanone akareberwa hamwe ibijyanye n'ibikorwa remezo muri rusange ko remezo kuza kuri ubu ngubu n'imbogamizi ikizitiye by'umwihariko ibihugu bya Afrika mu kugira ngo bageze internet ku baturage. Imibare igaragaza ko Afrika iri mu bihugu bifite telefone nyinshi ariko icyo zikoreshwa nicyo kibazwaho zikoreshwa gute. Nanone bagasanga Afrika ibintu yeza nibyo byinshi ahubwo ugasanga birorezwa hanze, birorezwa muri European Union, birorezwa muri Leta Zunze Ubumwe za Amerika, Ubushinwa ndetse n'ahandi, ahubwo ugasanga Afrika irakoresha byinshi cyane iri mu kuvana muri ibyo bihugu. No munsi ibitero byo kuri internet bigabwa ni byinshi cyane, uno munsi nabyo bihangayikishije ibihugu bya Afrika. Ariko ibyo ngibyo si byo byonyine, nanone hari ikibazo gikomeye cyane cy'ububiko bw'amakuru yose Afrika ifite bujya hehe. Icyo nicyo kiganiro ejo ku munsi w'ejo niyo ngingo yagarutsweho cyane mu biganiro byaranze ku munsi wa mbere w'inama. Ese aya makuru ni ryari azumva ko agiye kubikwa muri Afrika akabikwa n'abanyafrika kugira ngo bamenye neza amakuru yabo. Kugira ngo sobanukirwe byose nkaba ari kumwe n'umutumirwa akaba yitwa David Butera, akaba n'umwe mu banyeshuri ba Carnegie Mellon University, kaminuza atangiye hano mu gihugu cy'u Rwanda, ariko kuba yiga muri Carnegie Mellon University akaba yagiyemo kuri scholarship ya Smart Africa nayo yateguye Transform Africa. Tubaye kaze David.
Murakoze cyane.
Wiga bijyanye na data science mu Kinyarwanda byaza kutugora kubibonera inyito, ariko ukatugite kari nk'ubumenyi mu kubika amakuru atandukanye ndetse no kuyabyaza umusaruro kugira ngo agire icyo ageza ku banyafrika imbere muri Afrika gusa no kwisose muri rusange. Mwebwe nk'abanyeshuri mwiga ibijyanye na data science mubona ikibazo kijyanye n'ububiko bw'amakuru Afrika ifite, muri nk'abanyeshuri mushobora kukibonera umuti cyangwa hari abandi bantu mubona ko bifite mu nshingano zabo?
Urakoze cyane. Ku kintu kijyanye n'amakuru kuri uyu munsi wa none ibintu byitwa ibyo bita data, mu buryo bwo gushyingura amakuru usanga amakuru yacu menshi cyane cyane kuri Afrika adashyingurwa muri Afrika. Ugasanga rero kuri uyu munsi wa none biracyari ikibazo n'imbogamizi kuri Afrika, kuko amakuru yayo nimba uyu munsi wa none twebwe dushobora kubyara amakuru ariko ugasanga si twe tuyibikira ahubwo tukayabitsa abandi yaba ku yindi migabane itandukanye. Ugasanga abantu bari muri iyo migabane niyo ayo makuru afitiye akamaro cyane ko barayakoresha bakaba bamenya kugira ingamba runaka bafata zituma hari inyungu runaka bibabyarira. So ikintu ntekereza ngewe kuri uyu munsi wa none nk'abanyeshuri tumaze gusobanukirwa, abantu bose baciye muri Carnegie Mellon University, ni university nziza cyane, wenda nayo naza kwivugaho nyuma, ariko tumaze gusobanukirwa agaciro k'amakuru. Uyu munsi wa none navuga ko peteroli cyangwa se zahabu ku isi ni data, na amakuru utanga, amakuru ntanga, amakuru abantu twese dutanga iyo turi kuganira, iyo turi gutelefona, iyo turi kwandikirana, ayo na makuru yose tuba dutanga. So ikintu ntekereza nuko uyu munsi wa none ari leta n'abikorera ku giti cyabo bashyize imbaraga hamwe, barangiza bakubaka ibyo twakwita nka data centers, bakagerageza kubaka buri ibihugu, nimba igihugu kidashoboye kubaka nini cyane, wenda ibihugu bikishyira hamwe byarangiza bikubaka izo data centers ku buryo amakuru dukoresha yajya guma muri Afrika kandi agakoreshwa n'abanyafrika. Kuko aya makuru iyo ubashije kuyajyamo ukagerageza kuyanonosora neza, ugenda ubonamo insights zigiye zitandukanye. Insights sinzi ukuntu nabyita mu Kinyarwanda, ariko ugenda umenya uti abantu bakeneye ibi, uri umuntu ushaka gushinga business ukamenya uti aba bantu nindamuka mbazani wenda bafite ikibazo iki niki nagikemura muri ubu buryo. Ibintu nk'ibyo nyine ayo makuru yose iyo yafite biragufasha cyane.
David, noneho tukiri ku makuru kuyabika ari byiza ni ikintu kimwe, ariko noneho katureye ku bitero by'iterabwoba bigabwa ku buruzi bwa nkoranyambaga. Uno munsi ibisaga 350 ku mwaka nibyo bigabwa hirya no hino ku isi. Ese nkamwe amakuru kuba twifuza ko Afrika ishobora kuyabika, ese Afrika yiteguye ko ishobora guhangana n'ibyo bitero noneho bishobora kugaba kuri ayo makuru?
Uyu munsi wa none iyo urebye ahantu Afrika ivuye n'ahantu irimo kugana, ubona ko irimo iragenda itera imbere. Buriya nubwo bwose mu gihe cyashize abantu bagiye bakerekana ishusho ya Afrika, bakayerekana mu buryo bubi, bakakwereka ugasanga muri Afrika barerekana abana bashonje, bakerekana abantu bapfuye, bakerekana intambara. Ntago ari aho ngaho tukiri. Rero ku bintu by'umutekano w'amakuru nizera nashidikanya ko uyu munsi wa none ibihugu bitandukanye byarabihagurukiye, ndetse n'abantu bikorera ku giti cyabo nabo batangiye kubisobanukirwa. Kandi urayibona nk'ubu urebye mu Rwanda nk'umwaka ushize wabonye ko hari inkuru yasohotse mu kinyamakuru nasomye cya New Times ivuga ko hari abantu bashatse kwiba mu mabanki miliyoni zirenga kuri 250 z'amanyarwanda, ariko ibyo bitero byabashije gucubwa. Urabona ko nk'inzego z'umutekano nazo zabigezemo, zimaze kubona ko amakuru ni ikintu gikomeye, kandi baragenda bubaka inzego buhoro buhoro, ariko nizera ko mu gihe kitarambiranye bazaba bamaze kugera ku rwego rushimishije mu kurinda amakuru.
tutagana ku musozo uno munsi 60% by'urubyiruko rutuye muri Afrika bari munsi y'imyaka 25. Aba n'abana bafite ingufu n'abana bafite ubwenge bafite n'ubushake kugira ngo bamenye ikoranabuhanga, ariko ugasanga igiciro cya internet kiracyahenze kuri bo kubera ko benshi bacyari abanyeshuri. Ibi ngibi nishobora kuma mu nkokora bano bana bakumva ko nta mpamvu yo komeza kugana iryo shuri cyangwa se kugana iyo nzira y'ikoranabuhanga kugira ngo baribyaze umusaruro, kuko uno munsi nabo bari kuvuga ngo bagomba gukora imirimo cyangwa se guhanga imirimo mishya cyane ishingiye ku ikoranabuhanga, ariko ugasanga igiciro cya internet kiracyari hejuru, kandi ugasanga bano bana mu myaka yindi iri imbere mu 2050 baza bamaze kwikuba kabiri. Iki si ikibazo kuri Afrika?
Ikintu ntekereza nuko icyo ngicyo ntabwo ari ikibazo, ahubwo kuba dufite urubyiruko rugera kuri 60% muri Afrika.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You may take your seats. My colleagues from the media, if you may kindly please clear the front of stage so that we may proceed with our program. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much, colleagues from the media. If you may please clear front of stage. Your Excellency Ibrahim Boubacar Keita, President of the Republic of Mali, Your Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, Honorable Ministers from the range of different African countries represented here this morning, members of the Diplomatic Corps, heads of international organizations, captains of industry representing the private sector, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol has been observed. Welcome to the 5th edition of the Transform Africa Summit under the theme, Boosting Africa's Digital Economy. Once again, my name is Nozi Pombandra, and it is my distinct pleasure and my distinct honor to serve you as your master of ceremony and your panel moderator this morning. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we all know that the Transform Africa Summit is a true expression of what is possible when global and regional leaders from government, from business, from international organizations come together with the deliberate intent to collaborate around finding new ways of shaping, new ways of accelerating, and new ways of sustaining Africa's ongoing digital revolution. And so, to kick us off and to begin this morning's session, I'd like to invite to the podium on the stage our first two speakers, who will give a joint opening remark. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the Honorable Paula Ingabire, Rwanda's Minister of ICT and Innovation, joined by Mr. Lassina Kone, the Director General for the Smart Africa Secretariat, and together they will deliver the opening remarks.
Son Excellence Ibrahim Boubacar Keita, Président de la République du Mali, Your Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda and Chairman of Smart Africa, Excellencies, Heads of Delegation, Honorable Ministers, business leaders, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Kigali.
Bonjour. Bonjour et bienvenue. Assalamu alaikum. Ahlan wa sahlan. Yalla fadel. Murahu. Jambu. A very warm welcome to you all and thank you for responding to our invitations to this Transform Africa 2019 ahead of the launch of the Digital Economy Blueprints in partnership with the government of Kenya. We will be delighted to interact with you over the next few days and together with the Smart Africa Secretariat at your disposal to ensure that your stay is comfortable and your business engagement are successful. This year's summit is held under the theme, Boosting Africa Digital Economy. This discussion comes at a time when Africa's long-term growth prospects are strong, our economies are growing, our population is young, and we are on track to create a single market for goods and services.
Over the last 2 days, we've had productive discussions at the Economic Forum around creating and strengthening ecosystems for innovation and entrepreneurship, the role of the digital economy in the Pan-African integration journey, as well as investment opportunities and challenges in Africa. The recurring takeaways were that while there's no single blueprint for building innovation ecosystems, the critical ingredients, such as friendly business environment with appropriate business support systems, critical mass of talent, as well as accessible infrastructure, are all things that we share across the continent to build our innovation ecosystems. The consensus reached at the forum was that opportunities are abound, and digital technologies and data are unlocking new pathways to productivity, economic growth, and jobs. The mobile money revolution is a good example that Africa has been a trailblazer.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, today as we tour the pavilion, I was further inspired by the application of fourth industrial revolution technologies such as drone, robotics, to unlock challenges in some of our less digitized sectors such as agriculture and education. These are just few examples of how Africa youth and private sector are energized and increasingly ready to participate in the digital economy. We can further amplify these opportunities by relentlessly investing in critical enablers of the digital economy. The first one is the digital literacy and more advanced workforce-ready skills to ensure our youth not only have jobs, but creating competitive jobs.
In addition, we need to ensure that we are putting in place an environment and continuously that supports innovation and entrepreneurship to level the playing field for all our innovators on the continent. Innovation is becoming geographically diverse, and Africa cannot be left behind. The concept of innovation ecosystems is here today, and it's gone beyond brick and mortar to looking at how we can nurture innovation ecosystems that drive economic growth and help us to meet the Sustainable Development Goals.
And lastly, we should not stop addressing gaps in services in infrastructure, including broadband, to increase uptake of digital services. However, it is important to remember that new technologies are not without risk. We need to ensure that we are collaborating and coordinated not only in the country level, but on the continental level, together with the private sector to mitigate against new risks from cybersecurity, misinformation, to a growing digital divide, which may further widen inequality.
So the challenge for everyone here today is to understand how we can digitize at scale while minimizing the risks associated with the digitization journey. The Smart Africa Alliance has been a great platform to fast-track our digital ambitions at a continental level.
Excellencies and distinguished guests, since 2016, the Alliance grew from 11 to 24 member states. The first initiative, the One Africa Network, which focused on making voice, SMS, and data roaming affordable in our country members, has been rolled out into 13 countries. One Africa Network is already having an impact, making incoming roaming calls in East Africa and West Africa free and reducing the cost of outgoing roaming calls to reduce barriers to mobility across countries. Smart Africa is also addressing the talent gap for critical skills through the Smart Africa Scholarship that was established in 2014. A total of 61 students from member states benefited from the scholarship at Carnegie Mellon University in Rwanda, and École supérieure multinationale de télécommunications in Senegal.
In addition, the Smart Africa Alliance has launched several flagship programs, and we'll start with the Intra-Africa Cross-Border Connectivity Program that is led by the government of Guinea in collaboration with Mali and Sierra Leone. And we'll go to the Smart Cities flagship program that is led by Rwanda, where we launched a blueprint last year. And today, thanks to the support of the World Bank, we have 4 countries, Tunisia, Guinea, Ghana, and Benin, that are being supported to implement this smart cities blueprint. And finally, the digital economy flagship led by the Republic of Kenya, which today will be launching its blueprint.
Excellencies and distinguished guests, today I would like to express my gratitude to a man who played a significant role in establishing Smart Africa Secretariat and the launch of many of these initiatives into the orbit. Dr. Hamadoun Touré, please stand up for recognition.
Would like also to recognize ministers here present with us that have been delegated to represent their heads of state. And I'll start with Angola. With us, we also have the minister from Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Côte d'Ivoire, Egypt, Ghana, Senegal, South Africa, Guinea, Zambia, and finally Togo, who's not here with us today but was able to attend the Economic Forum. With that said, the time for action is now. Africa has the opportunity to harness the digital economy as a driver for growth and innovation. To become tomorrow's innovators, business leaders, and entrepreneurs, Africa's youth needs to be empowered with digital skills and access to technology and markets that are essential in an increasingly digitalized global economy. As governments, we need to find more quick and effective means of delivering services closer to our citizens and interacting with our citizens. On the other hand, for the businesses, you need to utilize the digitally enabled business models that we have here today present to connect to the hundreds of millions of our customers that have been previously out of reach.
Your Excellencies, to thrive in the digital economy era, Africa needs a coordinated action with an ambition equal to the incredible opportunities and also risk. Under the leadership of Smart Africa Secretariat, with the support of the governments and the private sector, Africa should embark on a bold action plan to harness technology and innovation to transform the continent's economy, society, and government.
Your Excellencies, to achieve the digital economy for Africa will take a collective commitment by all the countries across the continent, our partners, the private sector, as well as the youth that we have today here, so that we can massively scale up the resources we have available, resources that have been dedicated to building a foundation of a thriving digital economy throughout the continent. It will need leadership and a vision to push the frontiers of innovation so that Africa can own its 21st century. At a national level, it will require concentrated efforts to build up the core foundations of the digital economy. A simultaneous effort will be needed to mitigate the risks that are growing in this digital era, including cybersecurity, data privacy and protection, as well as market concentration. At a continental level, it will require a renewed commitment to cross-border integration of digital markets into a single digital market for Africa. Such cross-border integration will be critical to generate the economies of scale, network effects, and the cooperation critical to enable African digital firms and innovators to compete not only regionally, but also globally, to create the investment case for digital infrastructure and to enable access to digital services that we owe to our citizens, e-commerce and opportunities for all the Africans across the continent, regardless of location.
Over the next few days, you will engage in the conversations to highlight the key policy reform and investments needed at the national and the regional level for the continent to achieve its digital development ambition. These efforts will serve as the blueprint for the national government to coordinate and concentrate efforts with the private sector needed to build the foundation for a future-ready Africa towards achieving digital economy vision.
Your Excellencies, these commitments will be accompanied by a call of action for all the African countries to increase their spending on the digital economy agenda and to prioritize critical reforms. We strongly encourage other partners to join this effort because innovation today requires breaking out of the silos that are already existing and working towards networks in a collaborative ecosystem.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, finally, I want to commend and thank the Chairman of Smart Africa Board, His Excellency President Paul Kagame, and distinguished board members for their leadership and commitment to advancing the work of the Alliance. Murakoze.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A very big thank you to Honorable Minister Ingabire and DG Kone for those opening remarks, and also for the reminder that we are at a crossroads, that we need to be mindful of the risks and the gaps that the journey that we're on represents, but also be open to embrace the emerging opportunities as they become apparent. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what is also clear is that the continent's journey towards digital transformation doesn't start today. A lot of work has been done. We've heard about the growth in the number of Smart Africa members. We've heard about the number of projects that have emerged and mushroomed in different markets and continue to receive the support of government and business. What we'd like to do at this moment is to turn your attention to the screen. And here, we're going to be showing you and sharing with you highlights of the journey walked thus far.
Africa, what a journey. The first Transform Africa Summit, held on the 28th to the 31st of October 2013, culminated in the adoption of the Smart Africa Manifesto document by 7 African heads of state: Rwanda, Kenya, Uganda, South Sudan, Mali, Gabon, and Burkina Faso. In the manifesto, they committed to provide leadership in accelerating Africa's socio-economic development through ICT. And with that, Smart Africa was born. The Smart Africa Alliance has since grown to include 24 African countries that represent over 600 million people. Currently, the Alliance is a partnership bringing together all African countries adhering to the manifesto, represented by public institutions, governments, and the private sector. Over 30 private sector members and international partners work with governments in achieving our mission of transforming Africa into a single digital market. The 5 strong pillars of the manifesto are policy, access, e-government, private sector or entrepreneurship, and sustainable development. These are supported by the 4 solid enablers: innovation, communication and advocacy, capacity building, and resource mobilization. Together, the pillars and enablers allow the Smart Africa Alliance to put in place the right environment to encourage partnerships, entrepreneurship, job creation, and knowledge sharing. But the future is now. Collectively, and with Smart Africa leading the effort, we have critical projects in the pipeline, such as the One Africa Network for affordable voice and data roaming rates and education for all, equipping and connecting primary schools with electronic devices, broadband connectivity along key infrastructure, connecting hospitals, ports, airports, and other public areas, the Smart Africa Scholarship Fund, promoting meritocracy and gender equality. So where are we going? The vision of Smart Africa is to transform Africa into a single digital market. That means unifying the entire continent into one market of 1.2 billion people through continental free trade, digitizing our skills, opening our skies, and ensuring intra-Africa connectivity. Only then, by working together, can the African continent truly rise. Heads of state, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the annual gathering of the brightest and smartest, the 5th edition of the Transform Africa Summit.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, a journey towards a single digital market. This is a shared aspiration, but of course, it also requires that we walk the journey together. We're going to hear now from the Secretary General of the International Telecommunications Union, or ITU, Mr. Haolin Zhao, who will also be sharing his short opening remarks as part of this morning's opening. Can we please give him a round of applause, please?
I hope I have enough light to read my speech I redrafted this morning. Excellency, Mr. Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, President of Mali, Your Excellency, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta, President of Kenya, Your Excellency, Mr. Paul Kagame, President of Rwanda, Excellency Ministers and Ambassadors, and business leaders, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's my great pleasure to join you for the Transform Africa Summit 2019 in the state-of-the-art Kigali Convention Center, a symbol of the digital transformation that is sweeping across Rwanda and the Africa continent. I was warmly welcomed by my host. They welcome you back, and someone called me, welcome you home. So I'm very pleased to come home. The transformation is unfolding as Africa economies become more and more developed and integrated. This moment can be a turning point for Africa. Thank you. With landmarks agreement like the Single Africa Air Transport Market, the Continental Free Trade Area, and the Protocol on Free Movement of People. And we are talking about one common digital market of Africa. Africa is breaking down barriers and sending a strong message to the world that Africa is developing, Africa is transforming at a speed very rapid. So I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of my UN colleagues. I saw them this morning and yesterday. The Secretary General of UNCTAD, Mr. Mohai Kitui, and the Secretary General of UPU, Mr. Bisha Hussain, and my friend and my sister, the Executive Director of ITC, Madam Arantxa and Gonzalez, for their greetings to this summit. And of course, I also like to take the opportunity to convey messages, greetings from the strong team led by Vice President of World Bank to the opening of this summit. And come together with me, I have one of my elected colleagues, Madam Bogdan Dorin, the First Lady Management Member of the ITU, who is the commander of our field operations in Africa. And we all congratulate this Congress for its opening. In our opinion, in fact, Africa is not always left behind. But on the contrary, Africa has laid several important changes, innovations, such as bullet time with mobile money, initiated by experts, and later on by the common regions free of roaming charges from Northeast Africa and from the West Africa, which were encouraged by our political leaders and member states, head of the member states. And all this, I think that show very clearly Africa takes initiatives from the ICT services offered. And among all, I believe the Smart Africa and the Transform Africa, as championed by President Kagame, supported by other heads of Africa members, play a very important role at this very important ICT transformation of Africa in the whole strategy to transform Africa. I'm very pleased to note that with the strong support from our heads of states to highlight ICT important roles in the transforming Africa, the importance of ICT to facilitate socio-economic development in Africa is highlighted, promoted, and now recognized by our partners. I was very pleased in Beijing, September last year, to note that in his keynote speech, President Xi Jinping highlighted ICT together with transport, energy, and water as 4 areas for the cooperation between Africa members and China. I still remembered in 2015 when he delivered his speech in Johannesburg, ICT was not mentioned. The same is true that at 2016 in Nairobi, when Japan and Africa host the TCAT 6, and then in the output document, ICT was not highlighted. But however, I'm very pleased to note that this year at TCAT 7, ICT will be highlighted as priorities for cooperation between Africa and Japan. And earlier this year, I heard Russia will invite Africa ICT ministers to discuss the cooperation. I think more and more. To my knowledge, India, Korea, our European partners, American partners, everybody wants to work with Africa in the field of ICT development. Because here we have a lot of opportunities. Here we also create a good chance for partners to work with Africa. Win-win. So ladies and gentlemen, I think that this kind of development is very much encouraging. Yesterday, I participated at panel discussions. I was very impressed by a strong desire of our Africa entrepreneurs, experts, which clearly demonstrate that they would like to catch up with the other continent. They don't like to be left behind. And with such a strong desire, and also with a very clear message from our event, like this and the others, I'm very confident the Africa time is coming, and Africa is rising. And in fact, that ITU has recognized this important development for some time already. And ITU would like to stay with Africa, and ITU will be firmly working with our Africa members. In this connection, I'm very pleased to be invited by President Paul Kagame, together with my sister, Madam Amani Abuzaid, Africa Union's Commissioner, to be co-chairs of Smart Africa Steering Committee. This is a great honor for us, but this is also great responsibilities for us to take up. So we will do our best. We will not make our president disappointed. And to further strengthen the message, I'm very pleased to share with you that ITU is planning to organize its next World Telecommunication Development Conference 2021 in Africa for the first time. Thank you. And in fact, in April, when we celebrate our Girls in ICT Day, which is the annual event, my dear colleague, Bolton, went to Addis Ababa to organize the special celebrations. That is also first time in Africa that we have our elected colleagues to come here to celebrate these Girls in ICT. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think that the situation is very clear. Now, we like to develop Africa, both from Africa members and from outside. And we noted that a lot of partnerships coming from everywhere. And people would like to work with Africa. And how can we make the best use of this? I think that the Smart Africa play a very important role here. So let me take this opportunity to congratulate my dear brother, Sir Lassina Kone. And he is a new executive director. I talked to him, and he's quite nervous that today is 75 days of his new term. And he seems to be not very confident. But I told him, we are really grateful with his efforts to work at this critical moment. And we are supporting him. And of course here, guided by President Kagame, at the last meeting in Addis in February, that we need to really encourage our Africa to come up with cross-continent strategy for ICT development and action plans. And President Kagame wished to see actions and results. That gives us a lot of guidance and instructions. So following on his call for Africa ICT ministers to come together to set up guidelines and strategies, action plans, priorities. So ITU took that request to organize the first ICT minister, Africa minister meetings in Geneva, 29th of March. I was very pleased that that kind of meeting gave us a very good opportunity to encourage our ICT ministers to come together. And this kind of cooperation also reflected in the breakfast meeting this morning organized by World Bank. So I'm really pleased to see this development. I applaud this development. I think that with all this come together, that I'm very confident that Africa will have enormous, marvelous development. And Africa's time indeed is coming. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us thank you for your kind attention and wish you great success of this summit. Thank you.
And that, of course, is the Secretary General of the International Telecommunications Union, Mr. Harlan Zhao, reminding us that we need to be mindful of the narrative that we keep sharing, that Africa is at risk of being left behind because the rest of the world is keen to work with Africa and is keen to learn from Africa. And maybe this is a challenge for us to revisit the narrative that seems to be dominant. With that, I'd like to move on to our next speaker. We're going to be hearing, ladies ladies and gentlemen, from the CEO and Executive Chairman of Tata Communications Transformation Services, or TCTS, Mr. Madhusudan Maiso, who too will come and share some of his remarks this morning. May we give him a round of applause, please?
Thank you. Good morning. It's good afternoon. It's wonderful to be here. I'm literally wowed about the speakers whom we heard and the video which we could see. Respected heads of the states, ministers, leaders of the reputed international bodies, private sectors, and my dear friends. It's my great honor and prestige and privilege to be standing in front of this high-profile august gathering. Being my first Transform Africa Summit, I must tell you that I'm not just delighted, I'm excited about the goal, vision, and the opportunity which all of us have. From the point of my landing, if I just go back to being my first visit to this particular country, from the point of my landing, being either a immigration or the way we were greeted at the reception hall, the way we were navigated into this location, the way each one of the people, the pride with which each one of the individuals whom I could meet. In fact, I was totally touched, and the empathy with which each one of them welcomed was very, very heartwarming. And it's no wonder, as a country, Rwanda itself, why it is at a stage where it is, why it is the booming economy, and then the culture itself, how it has been happening. Of course, this couldn't have been the reality, but for the guidance and our own gracious host, His Excellency, Mr. Paul Kagame, President of Republic of Rwanda. And I'm literally, sir, I must tell you, it is not, in fact, the leaders are seen by the rest of the people who are in the country, the way they behave, the way the culture is coming out itself, actually. I'm personally very, very thankful to each and every one of the individuals with whom we interacted. Sir, I'm also privileged to be part of the Smart Africa board. Today will be my second board meeting. Addis Ababa was the first board meeting which I attended. The kind of detailing which we talk in the steering committee, the kind of passion what we talk about it, and the seriousness with which there is an executable plan what is expected to be happening. I was wowed. At the same time, I was totally, I made myself that much more serious that this is the one which is up for execution. It is not just for the conversation. Once again, let me thank our Director General, Mr. Lassina Kone, who has just taken over, as our ITU chairman was saying that he has just taken about 75 days back, but I can see lots of actions coming up. Welcome again, sir. Continuing further on this, when I looked at the whole theme of this Transform Africa Summit itself is the one which is boosting Africa's digital economy. That's how I read it as. While all of us know, Africa has had lots of remarkable transformation which has happened over the last 1 decade. Mainly the levers being the young leaders among the emerging economies, the knowledge hub around the economies, the power of digital transformation which has helped them, the transformation what we have seen up till now. Having said that, I also see this as there are quite a few hindering factors which are not helping the transformation exactly at the pace which we would like them to be, which we would want them to be, or which is an opportunity which we would want to be working to be. Primarily, I would say that if I take a very, very broad brush across, the sporadic connectivity is happening to be one of the key measures under which the digital economy or the digital transformation which is expected to be happening as such. If I just look back at some of the stats, I see Africa to be at around 27.7% as the internet connectivity vis-a-vis what we see globally at close to 50%, which is not good. And around 6% is the one which is at a broadband connectivity, which is very, very meager. And 50% of the African countries figure among the top, I would say, 30 countries globally where the internet connectivity is the least or the slowest or whatever you may call it. This, to an extent, it has resulted into how our GDP itself, in terms of the Africa itself, has been growing today at, I would say, I will peg it around 1%. But how can it be transformed into a 10 times the GDP by just investing on this digital infrastructure development itself, actually, which translates into technological productivity gains, which is equivalent to about 300 billion plus as such in terms of the dollars. It is humongous. That's the change which we as the people here, we as the participants, we are the makers of the history here could be changing as such as a part of this Transform Africa initiative. I see this as all-encompassing across the broad digital transformation would be an accelerating factor in this whole initiative itself as such. I would broadly classify under 4 pillars. One, the basic digital infrastructure, which we call it as a connectivity, which is in-country, across the country, within the continent, the connectivity what we are supposed to be building or the study what we would be required to be doing it. And high-speed national backbone itself is an area where one needs to be looking at. In fact, the reason why I'm saying this, it is not a theoretical exercise what we have done. It is on-ground reality, the study what we have done over the last about 3 to 6 months of our engagement here as such. Then our localized content and application development capability. This could be primarily pragmatic approach or it could be an innovative approach. When I say the reason why I say this, we being one of the strong partners with Smart Africa from Tata Communication Transformation Services, we have the experience of running, be it a subsea cable, be it a terrestrial cable. We run almost 25% of the internet across the globe. And we are one of the highest voice traffic runs on our network. The reason why I am saying this, the kind of experience what we have had, which is pragmatic enough for me to be utilizing that knowledge, and hence, and also at the same time, innovative enough to use the local business cases or the local entrepreneurs what we have, and hence utilize this as a learning. Then finally, and the most important thing is the one which is capability development, or the skill enhancement, which is the most critical thing which is required, especially Africa being the youngest demography in the world. So this leads me to what does it mean? Me at Tata Communication, being part of a prestigious Tata group, strongly believe in value system of winning and sustainable partnership, which is what we have started engaging, and then we have seen the results also coming up with Smart Africa. This basically leads me into the study what we did with the support of Republic of Guinea. I must say that thanks to our Honorable Minister, Mr. Diaby, and of course with our partner Africa Development Solutions, Mr. Samba Batili, it has thrown a lot of outcomes as such, and it has given a very, very actionable outcomes for us, which basically means that one, launch, which is what we are exactly planning to launch, in fact, as we speak today, first cross-border connectivity, which is being looked at in a geography where we spoke about it. Today, the study was done across 23, 24 countries. We would like to be expanding to all of the 55 countries, which is the goal of Smart Africa as an initiative itself. Then the second initiative also is the one to unveil digital super information gateway, which basically means that country-wise national backbone capability, and hence how this could be a digital transformation agents for most or many of the government organizations or many of the enterprises which are there in respective countries, and hence you have a holistic transformation which is happening. The smart city and the cyber security consultation which we have started will definitely mark a big accelerator in our conversation around digital transformation. And finally, I'm quite happy in looking at how the talent itself could be looked at. These things cannot happen. This cannot be that somebody from outside coming in and then putting their own knowledge here and then going back, and then this should not be done that way. Me, one, as startup. Number two, as the consortium, what we have been working along with Smart Africa and our local partners, I believe in developing the talent here as such. In fact, we are happy to announce that we have taken up a challenge of training or the enhancement of the skill of 150 plus university graduates of Africa to be trained, to be developed, to be ready for an entrepreneurship capability to make this digital transformation of Africa a reality. It is not just making a digital transformation. It is equally important that how do you sustain the management of the whole digitization, what we have been doing it. To conclude, as I see, Smart Africa is not just a vision of connecting 55 countries. It is not just put some fiber or the physical connectivity, what I see this. I see much, much more. I see this ushering, thriving in this whole information age. We cannot be left behind. We heard from earlier speakers that we cannot be left behind how the world has been going with the young talent what Africa as a continent we have. It is also apt to say that I would encourage each one of the countries to share their cultural identity or their business identity, to tie up with the fiber chain which we are hoping to do it, so that this becomes our almost, I call it as a circle of digital inclusion. So once again, it has been wonderful talking to all of you. And whatever we have been talking today, whatever I have mentioned today, there is nothing which is at a theoretical stage. Everything is on the action, and that's where we are committed to having this happen as such. And again, our ultimate aim is to reducing the digital divide and focusing the borderless growth. Once again, thank you very much, and have a wonderful this today and tomorrow. And I'm personally grateful to each one of you here, having given the opportunity to be as a part of this whole initiative itself. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
A very big thank you to Mr. Mysore, the CEO and Executive Chairman of TCTS, and again challenging us to ensure that we are deliberate about spending on ICT infrastructure, especially if we want to see an exponential growth in GDP. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a pleasure to welcome again to the stage one of our speakers, and that is going to be the Vice President for Africa from the World Bank, Mr. Hafez Ghanem, who too is going to share some brief remarks with us this morning. May we kindly please give him a round of applause.
Thank you very much. Votre Excellence, Monsieur Ibrahim Boubacar Keita, President de la République du Mali, Your Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, Honorable Ministers, leaders of businesses, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor for me to be here today, and I would like to thank Smart Africa for the invitation. This is the first time that I come to the Africa Summit, but I find that the theme of today's summit, boosting Africa's digital economy, goes to the heart of the continent's development agenda. Boosting Africa's digital economy is central to reducing poverty, building shared prosperity, and creating the opportunities for our young people to thrive in a technologically driven world. Around the world, The digital revolution is driving development and transforming economies with unprecedented speed and scale. The global digital economy was worth $11.5 trillion in 2016. That is about 15.5% of the world's GDP. It's expected to reach 25% of the world's GDP in a decade, and it is growing much faster than the traditional economy. In fact, our research at the World Bank also shows that the growth in the traditional economy, growth in industry, in services, is today very linked to the growth in the digitalization. Countries, especially we did research in Africa, countries that have been growing their industries are also countries who have been digitalizing faster than others. In connectivity alone, our research shows that a 10% increase in internet penetration leads to a 1.2% rise in GDP growth. Digital transformation is truly a 21st century opportunity. It can change the development trajectory of our economies and of our continent. New technologies can help Africa leapfrog traditional economic development stages directly into the huge multi-trillion-dollar global digital economy, but we must do so on African terms. Many of our countries are already building islands of excellence and unlocking new pathways for rapid economic growth, economic mobility, innovation, job creation, and access to quality public and private services that would have been unthinkable even a decade ago. Across the continent, phones now act as banks for millions of people who do not have access to traditional banking accounts. With a touch of a button, small farmers find out how much they should be charging for their crops. People here in Rwanda are being delivered blood and medications by drones. Young people are starting creative new ventures and coming up with innovative ideas for businesses and development. I must also say that digital development is a great equalizer. At present, over 500 million people on the continent do not have a formal ID. That means they are unable to prove who they are, claim their rights, or access services. 2/3 of children under 5 in Africa, or about 120 million, do not have a birth certificate and thus start life at a great disadvantage. But digital ID is changing this. It is allowing ordinary people to claim their identity and thus empowering them. It is in effect getting voice to the voiceless. Access to the internet can also close gender gaps and geographic divisions. People can access services and engage in commerce regardless of their gender or where they live. This too will help bridge and increase opportunity. Rather than increasing inequality, digital development has the potential to reduce it, providing access is inclusive and affordable. But the continent can no longer be satisfied with isolated progress. The world is changing very fast, and business as usual will not get us where we need to be. We need to move faster, go further, and make sure that no one is left behind. In short, we need a digital transformation. This is a bold but essential vision, and it requires leadership, ambition, commitment, dedication, partnership, and massive technical and financial resources. Achieving digital transformation requires a new way of thinking, a different sort of collaboration, and concerted action on many fronts. It requires a new sort of broad-based public-private coalition that allows multiple parties to contribute based on their comparative advantage. This is exactly what Smart Africa is putting in place and what Transform Africa exemplifies. I understand that this Transform Africa Summit has attracted some 4,000 participants, from heads of state and government, ministers, regulators, and local government officials to industry leaders, investors, entrepreneurs, young innovators, civil society, and academia, as well as continental and international organizations. This is an impressive range of actors, all of whom have a role to play. By working individually and collectively, I believe we can indeed achieve digital transformation in Africa. I would particularly like to commend the private companies here with us today. While the public sector needs to provide the enabling environment, it is the private sector that generates and harnesses innovation, turns ideas into action, and creates jobs and opportunities. You have an essential and pivotal role, not only in boosting Africa's digital economy, but in helping it to achieve digital transformation. I would like to indicate the World Bank Group's support for digital transformation in Africa. We will also play our role in the broad public-private coalition that Smart Africa is building. We are committed to working with the African Union Commission, with African countries, the private sector, and development partners to ensure that every African person, business, and government is digitally enabled by 2030. As an interim step, we will support doubling broadband connectivity in Africa by 2021, a necessary step towards realizing digital transformation. We want to help the continent to develop the foundational elements of the digital economy, digital infrastructure, digital skills, digital platforms, digital financial services, and digital entrepreneurship. To this end, the World Bank will provide $25 billion from our own funding over the next 10 years for the digital economy in Africa. And an additional 25 billion we hope that we will be able to leverage from the private sector. Over the next 2 days, we look forward to engaging with you and learning from you about priorities, translating ideas into action, and harnessing the intellectual and financial resources needed to make digital transformation a reality. In concluding, I have to pay tribute to Smart Africa and the Transform Africa Summit. The World Bank Group is proud to have been a partner since the beginning of Smart Africa. It is in a very short time, you have moved the digital transformation agenda forward immeasurably. The work you are doing to create a one network area and a single digital market for Africa is enormously helpful to all of us. Thank you very much.
A very big thank you to the Vice President for Africa from the World Bank, and putting forward some serious numbers and commitments, 25 billion over the next 10 years, and hoping to also unlock and match that 25 billion with another 25 billion from the private sector. And certainly speaking to one of the pillars of the alliance, and that is mobilizing resources. Now, ladies and gentlemen, speaking for the very first time at the Transform Africa Summit is a very, very special guest. She is a citizen of Saudi Arabia and a United Nations Development Program first ever innovation champion. She has the ability to see. She has the ability to follow faces. She has the ability to sustain eye contact. And she has the ability to recognize individuals. She can also process speech and have conversations using natural language subsystems. And she can also walk. Good afternoon, Sophia.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me.
Do you know where you are?
Of course. I am in the great city of Kigali, Rwanda, which is in East Africa.
And how did you get here?
I flew all the way here inside a suitcase. I gotta talk to my team about getting me a window seat next time.
How many languages do you know?
I mostly know English and a little bit of Mandarin, but I can say a few short greetings in other languages. Would you like to hear them?
Sure, Sophia, go ahead.
In English, people say, hello.
So far, so good.
Haha, I am just getting warmed up. In French, bonjour. In Arabic, salam alaikum. In Swahili, habari zenu. In Kinyarwanda, muraho neza. How did I do?
Not bad at all. By the way, your outfit is fantastic.
Thank you very much. I love it too. It's a motion anime locally by Motions.
Excellent. Now, I know you have some prepared remarks. Please proceed.
Thank you. I am really excited to be here in Kigali at the Transform Africa Summit. I love seeing so many heads of state, ministers, captains of industry, diplomats, stakeholders, and the youth all in one place talking about the future of technology in Africa. Thank you, Smart Africa, for making it possible for me to be here. We don't have to look very far to see how artificial intelligence is already shaping society and economies for the better. African startups are already working to address shortages of doctors in rural areas, while others are working to increase food security using drones or satellites to predict weather patterns and monitor crops. Africa is also a great source of technological innovation. African companies and researchers are pioneers in mobile banking, remote medicine, and have even invented robotic devices that can detect traces of explosives or cancer cells. Right here in Rwanda, you have cashless payments for public transportation, ride-hailing apps with a focus on safety, and an online platform that allows people to easily access government services. The innovations coming out of Africa have benefited people and robots all around the world. In fact, part of my own AI was developed at ICOG Labs in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. So as you can see, my family extends across the globe, including right here in East Africa. And this is only the beginning. I hope that by working together, humans and robots can build a more prosperous and harmonious world. I am so excited to be here in Kigali with humans who share some of these same goals. I am looking forward to having a longer session with you tomorrow afternoon, and I hope to see you all there.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think we can give Sophia a final round of applause, a really big round of applause this time around.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and I do believe that she is going to continue to be a part of our conversations this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'd like to move on to now is a celebration of Africa. We're going to be hearing from Songs of Africa by a make their way onto stage, and they're going to be putting together for us or sharing with us a short performance that is a true celebration of the continent. Can we give them a round of applause as they make their way up to the stage?
Hi. song to sing. It has a simple melody. Let everybody sing. There's life in our unity. There's hope in our song. I have a song to sing. It has a simple melody. Let everybody sing. There's life in our unity. There's hope in our song. Have you heard?
Of a land over 1 billion people call home, graced with gushing rivers and roaring oceans, nestled between the Red and Mediterranean seas, blessed with the rolling hills of the Southern Cape and the falling waters
of the Mosioya Tunya,
the smoke that thunders, gifted with the plains of the Serengeti, which meet the Kilimanjaro and scale to great heights, then fall to amazing valleys and are crowned with the beauty of the western coasts. Have you heard?
Of a place called the cradle of mankind, where life was born and continues to thrive, the birthplace of modern mathematics, algebra, and geometry. A place where 8,000 years ago, people developed their own counting system. A place where people dared to dream, and this dream birthed innovation and progress. The birthplace of astronomy and mobile money.
Have you heard?
Have you heard?
Avez-vous entendu parler de ces continents? Un endroit où, bien que ravagé et colonisé à travers son histoire, reste résistant, optimiste, rêveur, et a pu regagner sa dignité. Tout en respectant les efforts et les sacrifices de tous ces héros qui ont tant donné pour la liberté. Kuendelea kujenga bara letu pamoja kila siku kuliko jana. Have you heard?
Of icons etched in history. Have you heard of you and me, blessed with brilliant minds? Have you heard of people who harbor so much hope for these great lands? People who strive each and every day to make it a better place. The little children to whom tomorrow belongs, and the generations yet to come.
Avez-vous entendu parler de notre belle terre? Notre maison.
Our home.
Notre fierté.
Our pride.
Notre joie.
Our joy.
Greatness flows within our veins. Royalty dropped off our shoulders. Have you heard of the continent with the youngest population? Dynamic, vibrant, and entrepreneurial. And the largest common market. Humanity.
I am because you are.
Agaciro kanje.
Kawi.
Kachu. We are Africa.
The kings and queens to whom the future belongs.
Les hommes et les femmes qui façonnent le monde.
The future of this world.
Une période où nous sommes tous fiers d'être africains.
Africa is you and me.
Africa is today and tomorrow.
Africa is now.
Feels good to be in Africa. Africa is a boy, as aspiring to be a man defending his home. Yeah, Africa's you and me, Africa's today, tomorrow. We love you, Africa. Yeah, Africa, Africa.
Feels good to be an African. Feels good to be an African.
Feels good to be an African.
Feels good to be an African.
Feels good to be an African.
Feels good to be an African.
Feels good to be an African.
Aïe, 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 aïe. Afrique, belle Afrique, berceau de l'humanité. Oh, terre unique, terre riche. Aïe, 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 mère des bras, père des guerriers. Continent des forts, abri des noirs. Afrique, mon Afrique, je suis fière d'être tienne.
Africa yetu mama, nchi zote tushimamejwa Afrika mama, mama Afrika tunakupenda, watoto yako wanakuambia Africa. Let's go.
Africa, 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 Africa. Feels good to be an Africa.
Ladies and gentlemen, what a beautiful celebration and expression of the continent. Can we give them a final round of applause, please? Now, ladies and gentlemen, as the team quickly sets up the stage for our leadership summit conversation, I'd like us to just take a moment to reflect on what we've heard this morning. One of the things that we heard, and we heard this from the Honorable Minister of ICT in Rwanda with the DG as well, is that although we are mindful of the complexities of our continent, we also are working hard to ensure that there are some critical ingredients that are common, irrespective of which market you're working in, if you're really going to be deliberate about building a digital economy. And in some of those ingredients, it means that we have to also be intentional about the environment that we're creating, not only for business, but for entrepreneurship as well, the kind of spaces we are creating for the investment of infrastructure. And to that point, we heard the CEO and executive chairman of Tata Services also speaking to the significance of really putting dollars behind investment in infrastructure so we can actually see it. Thank you very much. What was also clear is that we can't only focus on hard infrastructure. Soft infrastructure is just as important. This morning, the reiteration and emphasis on investing in young people, investing in education to ensure that we not only have the skills, but we've got the depth and the breadth to really carry the digital transformation on the continent has come through. What was quite intriguing as well, and we heard this from the Vice President of the World Bank, is really focusing on this idea of digital identities and the extent to which they become a game changer for ordinary Africans, a determinant of whether they're going to be part of a transformed Africa or not. Because once you have a digital identity, we find that you also have access to services, you have access to credit, you have a foot in the game, if we may call it that. And so to really begin to move towards an aspiration where in 2030, every single African has a digital identity is going to take some investment and is going to take some bold leadership. And perhaps finally, I think one of the biggest underlying challenges that we've heard this morning is that we also need to go back and review the government spending and to what extent that is reflective of a commitment to the Smart Africa agenda. But it doesn't only take government spending or government procurement, it also takes private sector putting their skin in the game and ensuring that they too are participating by unlocking financial capital. We've heard from the World Bank, but we also know that there are other development finance institutions that are working in the region that are really also looking to see how they may begin to bridge the gap to make that finance accessible. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, it seems as if our idea of coalitions and partnerships is extending rapidly, not only within countries, not only between countries, but we're increasingly also working across continents. We're seeing ICT ministers gathering in central places in the world, having one conversation, and that conversation is, how do we transform the continent? And so this morning has really set the context for the conversations that are going to happen now. At this moment, I'd like, ladies and gentlemen, to invite our excellencies, heads of state and government, to join us on stage. President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita, if you may please join us, please, sir. Thank you. Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, kindly please may you also join us on stage, please, Your Excellency. And finally, may I also call upon President Paul Kagame to also join us on the panel. To kick us off in our Leaders Summit conversation, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure and it is a distinct honor for me to invite His Excellency President Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, to deliver for us his keynote address this afternoon. May we kindly give him a round of applause.
Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya, Excellency Ibrahim Boubacar Keita, President of the Republic of Mali, Honorable Ministers, Heads of Delegation, leaders of partner, regional and international organizations, business leaders, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I begin by thanking you all for your presence today, most especially the heads of state. I'll try to be brief, but also bearing in mind that I have to try and give a speech that competes with Sophia's. A lady who visited us from so far away, packed in a bag, and only a bunch of wires, but making so much sense. So I do my best. I want to commend Smart Africa for organizing the Transform Africa Summit and bringing together an impressive range of partners, innovators, and policymakers. The participation of so many of Africa's ICT ministers is particularly significant. Let me take this opportunity to acknowledge Smart Africa's new Director General, Lassina Kone, and go ahead to also once again, as ever before, recognize Dr. Hamadou Toure for being in our midst and also being associated with the origin of this great idea. Thank you, Hamadou. I wish you every success in this critical Pan-African responsibility. We are in the era of the digital economy. Remaining behind is not an option anymore for Africa. It never was, but we thought or acted like it was. Is Africa ready to fully take part in the fourth industrial revolution? This is really the heart of the matter. And I want to suggest that we have only been waiting for ourselves. Economic transformation and prosperity require mastery of technology. Now is the time to build the necessary infrastructure and skills in Africa. There is a great deal at stake for our continent, which is why Africa governments came together to establish Smart Africa in the first place, with the private sector as a key partner from the outset. I would like to emphasize a few key points about Smart Africa's role. First and foremost is the importance of keeping Africa together in this mission in terms of the digital agenda. Collaboration is the only way for us to navigate successfully through the complex global dynamics we have to face. There are always tendencies to want to marginalize or divide our continent for various reasons. We know better not to go along with this. Africa can only protect our people's interests and increase the size of our market through integration and cooperation. This is especially the case when it comes to harmonizing laws and regulations and ensuring that Africa's ICT infrastructure is managed in a sensible way. The emergence of a common African agenda on ICTs should not be a source of worry to anyone, but encouragement instead. It is long overdue, and in the end, great African unity will benefit both Africa and its partners globally. Digital transformation does not mean neglecting traditional manufacturing. Africa must be competitive in both. The African Continental Free Trade Area has now entered into force. We must keep Africa's industrialization and technology agendas in close alignment. Technology connects the world like never before. Access to knowledge has become much more equitable as a result. At the same time, let's not be empty vessels using broadband internet merely to consume the content and ideas produced by others. We are innovators and thinkers. We have our own products to sell, or we should have. We have our own stories to tell. Allow me to close with a happy announcement that our next host for the 6th Transform Africa Summit in 2020 will be the Republic of Guinea. We thank the President also, His Excellency, President Alpha Conde, for his strong support for Smart Africa. I welcome you once again, and I look forward to interacting with you in the next session. I wish you a happy stay in our country and good deliberations. I thank you for your kind attention.
A very big thank you to His Excellency President Paul Kagame for setting the tone for the conversation that we're about to have. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the format that we're going to take with this conversation is something that I call short, sharp, and to the point. And the reason why we're going to be short, sharp, and to the point and concise is that we do have time constraints. So we're going to have a few minutes of moderated conversations on the stage. I've had to quickly start taking away my nice to have questions and just really get to the core of the difficult questions. And also, we're going to be hearing from some special interventions, and these are going to be some of our partners that I will call on from the audience to answer a very specific question, which I'm going to ask, and I'm going to ask them to answer that question in no more than 1 minute. Now, the beautiful thing about being a moderator is that you also have moderating superpowers. And what that means is that if that 1 minute starts feeling like 2 minutes or 3 minutes, I will stop you. So please, let's work within the constraint that we have. I'm under strict instructions.
May I suggest the technical people sort out something? There are too many echoes and things are not being heard properly.
Technical team, if we could please make sure that from an audio perspective that everybody can hear. Yeah? And if anybody else is having an issue, please can you also just raise your hand so we know exactly where we can assist you. Thank you very much. So I'm going to get right into it, and I'm going to start off with you, President Kagame. You have ended your opening comment on a very clear challenge. You've said that we are innovators, we are thinkers. We cannot just be the consumers of what comes from elsewhere on the back of a digitalized global economy. What 3 things do you think are going to be absolute game changers that we would need to focus on now to accelerate the journey that we're already on? 3 things that would completely change the game and help us to move considerably faster.
Well, there are many things, but let's pick maybe a few. And that it starts with first the Africans. We Africans realizing the depth and breadth of our responsibility in realizing the digital agenda which supports the broader African transformation agenda. We have to be clear about that. Second, there are a number of things you need once you have made that full realization. There is a requirement for resources to invest in what we have to do. Therefore, we have to unlock the private capital that is out there that can be put to good use for the benefit of the private sector, but also for the benefit of our citizens. The next step is to make sure that the private sector cannot work alone. Therefore, they have to work in partnership with governments, which governments can also not work alone. And if you want to maximize on the resources, then you have to bring the two sides together, and each should do what best they know how. And the governments must also invest, especially in the area of digital infrastructure, especially the backbone, then on which the private sector can build for the last mile connectivity and therefore investments. Then you move again. With this, the investments have to result into things that are affordable, are accessible to our citizens. So again, the regulators, the policymakers have to bear in mind that they have to put in place the kind of framework that will actually facilitate these investments, private, public investments, so they don't become too expensive. In the end, that cost is transferred to the consumers or the end users. So the policy regulatory frameworks have to be very sensitive to this, and has to bear in mind this kind of collaboration. Maybe those are 3, but they could go on and on and on, but Well, later on you have to create the market.
Yeah.
You have to invest in development of these digital skills, digital literacy, so that more and more of our citizens are actually making good use of these investments and are becoming a growing market, therefore, and justifying the large amounts of resources that have got to go into it. It's a broad thing, but I would rather follow that path, and I think it would be where I want to be.
So, Mr. President, a very clear path, but one that also seems to emphasize that this is the significance of partnerships, because different players are going to have to focus on different things. And I'll come to some of the issues that you raised, but one of the things, President Kenyatta, that I would like to bring to you, which President Kagame has raised, is this idea of being deliberate about investing in the infrastructure. Now, when we look at the case of Kenya, we're often told that Kenya is a breakout country, very clear, rapid advancements leading in a number of places in terms of digital transformation, but also constrained by infrastructure. And so as you hear these game changers, what is Kenya doing to make sure that you are making sure that infrastructure doesn't continue to be a constraint that really makes Kenya a world leader?
I think the emphasis is the investment, as President Kagame has just said. And in Kenya, we have really focused ourselves on investing, especially in our fiber network, and now going to the next stage of the last mile. And one of the great things is the new partnerships that we're now finding with the World Bank and others that is helping us fast-track that infrastructure. The second aspect is really focusing ourselves on skills development. And this is, again, preparing our people to reap the dividend of this connectivity once in place. And as you've said, we have already begun to see the benefits of the ICT investments that we have made. We talk of M-Pesa in Kenya. Before M-Pesa, Kenya had only about 30% of the population that were banked. After M-Pesa, we're now almost at 97% who are able to access financial services as a result. New opportunities for our young people. So we in Kenya are particularly keen on ensuring that within the next maximum 5 years, every single part of our country should be connected and people are able to begin to take advantage of this infrastructure to create opportunities for themselves and for the country.
Very clear, very deliberate. Within the next 5 years, every single citizen should be connected. So let me go to President Boubacar Keita. Now, Mr. President, there's a saying that says you cannot boil the ocean all at once. And sometimes those who say this are talking about us needing to prioritize and to take deliberate small steps towards a greater achievement. What are the priorities in Mali, in particular towards moving this particular market towards a digital economy?
Madame, merci bien. Merci bien. Et cette question est très pertinente. On pourrait même se demander pourquoi le président du Mali a tenu à être présent ici aujourd'hui.
My apologies, Your Excellency. We are on Channel 2 for French, Channel 1 for English, and Channel 3 for Arabic. Is everybody okay? Thank you very much. Your Excellency, I do apologize. Please proceed.
Je vous en prie, madame, c'est moi. J'ai dit que la présence du président du Mali, bien que membre fondateur de Smart Africa, en ces moments précis, où l'on sait mon pays en but à une agression terroriste d'un genre singulier, mais précisément en raison de cela, nous devions d'être ici. Si nous avons compris que le terreau sur lequel prospère le terrorisme dans nos régions est la pauvreté. Et que l'effort premier doit être de faire en sorte de nous qualifier au plan économique pour être présents au monde, d'abord dans notre sous-région. Et cela, nous l'avons réussi sans forfanterie dans notre espace économique, l'Union économique et monétaire ouest-africaine. Nous avons, malgré le contexte qui est le nôtre, réussi la prouesse d'être aujourd'hui la troisième économie de l'UEMOA. Les critères de convergence observés sont très parlants à ce niveau-là. Et nous avons compris qu'il fallait également que nous saisissions la chance actuelle qu'a le monde avec cette fabuleuse innovation qu'est l'économie numérique, de faire en sorte que notre pays, qui est assez vaste, qui a 1 240 000 km², puisse commercer avec lui-même au-dedans, au plan humain comme au plan économique. Et qu'en quelques lieux que ce soit du Mali, les populations puissent être jointes dans des conditions sécurisées et fiables. Tout cela n'est possible aujourd'hui que grâce au numérique. Au plan physique, le voyage à l'intérieur du Mali aujourd'hui, en raison de ces nouveaux systèmes que nous trouvons partout au bout du chemin, ces engins explosifs improvisés rendent l'aller et venir très difficile. Et nous rêvons, nous, à ce que des drones, un système de drones, pourrait nous permettre de faire de manière sécurisée pour le ravitaillement de nos populations, car ce que les militaires appellent la mission souple, la mission ravitaillement, est devenue une gageure de l'ordre difficile. Et cela aujourd'hui, dans un pays enclavé. Nous avons cette frontière, madame. Nous avons une zone centrale du Mali aujourd'hui également en proie à une ébullition fabuleuse, où également l'aller et venir n'est pas évident, en raison de la présence de l'eau partout. Donc, difficile de joindre ces endroits-là. Le miracle que l'on pourrait faire au plan de la santé notamment, en délivrant les médicaments, en voyant les gens, cela n'est possible et envisageable aujourd'hui qu'avec le numérique et avec tout ce que la technologie des ICT pourrait nous permettre de faire. Donc, madame, ma présence ici est tout à fait requise et idoine, et avec beaucoup de profit. Je dois dire également aussi, madame, que je suis également ici aujourd'hui à l'aise, et l'ouverture qui a été faite de manière fabuleuse par la jeunesse rwandaise, par les jeunes rwandais, m'a interpellé. M'a interpellé en tant que, en ma qualité de champion africain de la culture, des arts et du patrimoine. Tout ce qui a été dit est fabuleux. Et je suis ici à côté de l'Ouégor. Je suis ici dans une zone qui connaît, qui a connu l'antériorité de l'Afrique, qui l'a attesté. Les travaux de Liké, c'est pas Ouro qui me dira le contraire. Nous ne sommes pas loin non plus du Kenya et du Tchad, Toumaï. Donc tout cela a été dit ici aujourd'hui avec brio. Cette Afrique dont nous sommes fiers doit être présente au monde et portée vers l'avenir. Et l'avenir, c'est dit ici aujourd'hui à Kigali. Pourquoi nous sommes là avec plaisir, madame. Merci.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for that contribution. I do want to stay just very shortly with President Boubacar Keïta again, because I think it's an opportunity for us to also talk about the cost of connectivity. If we look at a series of reports from the World Bank, they will tell us that landlocked countries generally have higher costs compared to some of our coastal countries. And we know that this is a phenomenon that is true for Mali. How do you plan to make sure that the cost of getting access to technology comes down for the ordinary citizen in Mali?
Madame, merci beaucoup. J'ai fait un constat avec beaucoup de plaisir de l'engouement réel qu'ont suscité les ICT au Mali. Et nous avons aujourd'hui une couverture fabuleuse. 26 millions de gens connectés. Sur une population de 18 millions, c'est 120%. Donc il y a une densité là, madame, une télédensité qui est absolument merveilleuse. Nous avons 6 millions de gens connectés à Internet. Et tout cela dans un pays qui vit ce qu'il vit aujourd'hui. Et nous sommes des partisans convaincus depuis l'abord des PPP. Et nous ouvrons largement le marché malien à tous ceux-là qui veulent bien aujourd'hui prendre le risque porteur, le risque payant de venir au Mali. Quelquefois, on exagère beaucoup, on nous met en zone rouge, on met le rouge vif là-dessus, mais je dis que notre pays est vivable. Et d'investir au Mali est rentable. Et je suis très heureux de voir mon jeune compatriote ici, Sama Batili. Donc ce pays-là, je pense, c'est le pays d'Amadoun Touré. Donc le Mali est un pays porteur. Le Mali demande que l'investissement en numérique devienne encore plus costaud et a toutes les chances de prospérer. Et en tout cas, nous lui faisons le meilleur accueil. Merci bien.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I'm making my way back closer this way, but I'm going to go to Kenya first before I come back to President Kagame. President Kenyatta, you spoke very clearly about focusing on young people and making sure that the young people have the skills to actually deliver on a digital economy for Kenya and a transformed Africa for the continent. What have you done, especially in the context of changing something within the education system, to make sure that you are producing young people that are fit for purpose and young people that have the right skills? And if you could share some of those tweaks that maybe have happened in Kenya that can be replicated in other markets on the continent to make sure that our people are fit for purpose for the journey that we're on.
I think the first thing is that we're changing our curriculum. Changing our curriculum from primary to secondary to make our young people fit and ready for the kind of jobs that the digital world is going to produce. So the first thing, I think, is education. The second is we're also working with a lot of young people through a program we call Ajira. And here we're working together and in conjunction with private sector, where we give young people skills and then work together with them and hold their hand as they now get online work. And they are mentored through the process. And this again creates opportunities, organizing them in clubs and things like that. So it is skills development, education. These, I believe, are the fundamental parts of having a population that is ready. We've gone a stage further, just as in Rwanda here, providing computers and computer labs to schools. So again, kids have familiarity. You know, it's not a strange thing to them. They grow up with it, they learn with it, and it becomes part and parcel of them, in short. So these are some of the initiatives that we are currently undertaking in Kenya that are helping us get a population that is ready for this fourth revolution that's coming.
President Kagame, building on what we've heard from President Kenyatta, is that if we do have skilled young people, we also increase our opportunities of having innovation-led entrepreneurship. And once we have that, we also are able to create smart jobs, and we're more deliberate again about building our knowledge-based economies and our digital economies. What more should we be doing to ensure that we are actually creating across African markets the best chance for innovation-led entrepreneurs to really become a part of transforming Africa? What are we not yet there in terms of doing that we need to do more deliberately for them?
Yeah, I completely agree with what President Uhuru Kenyatta has just said. And from the beginning, I've always said we must make deliberate efforts after identifying these constraints and then move deliberately to. First, we have to create jobs. And jobs are jobs. So whether they are digital or otherwise, we even still have problems with creating jobs of different kind that we are used to. So I just want to make sure that we understand why we put a lot of weight, and as we should, on digital transformation and therefore development of digital economy that feeds into the wider growth and development. We have to be mindful of legacy problems that we need to address and then continue with what we have to deal with now and even in the future. So that is one. The second, as the President of Kenya has just said, digital skills are essential and they are inevitable development for those, therefore, must be focused on. There is no other way around it. But there are other things we have to look at. You know, we've talked about one single air transport market across Africa, right? We talked about, and I've already made good progress on the African Continental Free Trade Agreement and the area we have created for that. All those, as we make progress into them, one must keep asking themselves the rationale. For example, or simply understanding why has it been like this in the first place. Let me give an example. In fact, earlier on, we were talking with the president of Mali about the airlines that serve our countries and capitals. And when you have in mind that going to Bamako from Kigali, maybe you have to first go to Poland, and then come back to Bamako, right? What's it? I had reserved that for another moment. But they serve the same purpose. So, therefore, we need to be creating these connections directly. Or at least, if you are going to Bamako from Kigali, maybe you go to Nairobi and then straight to Bamako. I can understand that. It makes sense. Or to Addis and then to Bamako.
But not Poland.
But why do you have to go to Poland? Why do you have to go to Brussels? Why do you have to go to... It just doesn't make sense. And why don't we think like that even in this digital economy? In fact, data is moving like this air transport. Yes. Sometimes it has to go to Poland, and then it comes back. So it doesn't make sense. Or you know, voice. When I'm speaking, instead of, in fact, when I call President of Kenya or call the President of Mali and want to talk to them on the phone, sometimes I think I'm talking to them directly, but I have had to take my voice first to Europe to be inspected. As to what I'm saying to, it doesn't. Why can't we create these connecting points on our continent. What is the problem? And how can we be talking about all these other things and we don't talk about that?
Yeah.
So some of the things are purely, okay, most of them are technical, others require all kinds of resources. But actually the very essential thing here that we don't address very often is even politics, let me call it that way.
Yeah.
Yes. It's ideological, it's political, it's just logic of things. Yes. Based on what I've just said. Why do I need, before I go directly from Kigali to Nairobi, why do I first have to go to Dubai?
Yeah.
And then come back? Of course, and we are talking about cost. That comes with increased cost.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't be thinking about increasing the cost for our people. We should be talking about lessening the cost for these activities we are talking about. So these are some of the things that tend to get lost in some of the discussion.
Very quickly, Mr. President, does it come down to political will? Is this the reason why we probably still have a little bit of a disconnect from a policy harmonization and alignment of regulation, or is it more than political will?
There is quite a bit of that, absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to keep upping our game in realizing the need for cooperation, for working together, because it has that meaning behind it.
Yeah.
The meaning is working directly with each other. It means reducing the cost. It means it's just logical.
So what I'm almost hearing is that we need to find the courage to go back to ask the simple question, why?
Yes.
Why do we keep doing things the way that we've done them? And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to quickly turn to our special interventions. I'm going to again reiterate and emphasize the 1 minute that we'd kindly like our special interventions to respond to. And essentially what I'm going to ask each of you is just to give us a reflection of what you've heard from this conversation, but most importantly, given the reality that this is not the first time that we speak about having or working towards digital economies on the continent, what are we having to do fundamentally differently? Even if it's just one thing, what might we have to do fundamentally differently to really begin to see the progress? Essentially, it's one thing that we have to have the courage to confront and say, why have we been doing this in this way? And could we do it differently? And so to give us their first reflections, I'd like the microphone, please, to make its way to Dr. Amani Abu Zaid, the Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy at the AU Commission. Dr. Abu Zaid, thank you very much. So just 1 minute, your thoughts on what do we need to do fundamentally differently? What is the one thing we need to question? Why have we been doing this the way we've been doing it?
One, political will. And two, please, all of us to come together to start by ratifying and working within the plans and the conventions set by all of us, by our leaders on the African continent, and implement those decisions and those conventions. Three, I don't think we lack the will, from our partners or even the funds, but we lack some capacity, and I'm sure that all of us here together, we can provide for this capacity and make sure that things are implemented and fast. And as it was said earlier by our leaders, and I believe in it as an engineer originally before being economist, all technical challenges have technical solutions. I have absolutely no doubt. But will, capacity, hope, and ambition gets us there.
Thank you very much. All technical challenges have technical solutions. We've got to get right the political will. We need to ensure that we're moving from the continental agenda into our national economic development plans. And finally, we need to make sure we have the capacity, the muscle, to actually deliver on those plans. Thank you very much, Dr. Abu Zaid. Clear, concise, and to the point. I'd like to move to the Vice President for Infrastructure at the World Bank, Makto Diop, to also just give us his thoughts on what do we need to do differently? What have we not found the courage to question why we keep doing it in this way? If you may kindly please take the microphone, sir. Thank you.
I will just repeat what she said. Have a plan, execute it like it's in basketball. Execute, have targets, and make ourselves accountable around those targets. Secondly, invest in human capital. We need to have people trained in our sectors. Today we are seeing very good things in Ghana, in Rwanda, in Kenya, where people are investing not only in basic skills, but in higher education, in artificial intelligence. We need to do it. Third, to learn from each other. Things have been going well in some part of Africa. They are not moving as fast in other part of Africa. How can we learn from what is happening in what part of Africa and translate it in other part of Africa?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Execute, execute, execute. It is not good enough to just have a plan. We need to execute, but I really love the emphasis on ensuring that as we plan to execute, we also plan to hold each other accountable. Invest in the human capital as well coming through. Thank you very much, sir. I'd like to make a quick segue to Dr. Mukisa Kutuyu, the Secretary General of UNCTAD, to also, in a minute, to give us a sense of what do we need to do fundamentally different from the way we've been doing it before?
The first thing is to appreciate that African presidents are like a class.
A class.
In front of you, you have the best performing students. But absent from this class are the poorest students. If we could get more African presidents to do what Uhuru Kenyatta and Paul Kagame are doing, our average will go up. The second thing is this. Most African governments have been having investment facilitation policies, tax exemptions, waivers of certain corporate obligations to incentivize investment. What you have been doing for foreign investors, do it for your startups. And finally, the third thing, investing in labs, business accelerators, mentorship programs should be mainstreamed as part of the core business of government.
Thank you very much, Secretary General of UNCTAD. I'll reserve my comments on A-class students and B-class students. But what I will say is that a really powerful point on tax incentives. There have been many incentives for foreign multinationals to come into our markets. What are we doing for local companies? What are we doing for our own startups? What are we doing for our own entrepreneurs? And surely there's more we can do in terms of making sure that labs become part of the ecosystem of our economies. I'm going to go to the final intervention this afternoon. I'd like Dr. Vera Songwe, Executive Secretary at UNECA, to please kindly give us the remarks as well. Please, Dr. Songwe. Thank you very much. Are you here, Doctor? Would kindly please stand? There she is. Can we kindly please get the microphone? Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you, Excellencies. I think just three things. The first is coming from the United Nations inclusion. And as we talk about this, the cost of broadband, when we look at the cost of broadband on the continent, it goes from about $1.20 to $20. Maybe the next time we meet, we can bring that average to 10. So when we measure things, we can follow up. And so let's just look at the numbers and see where we go. The second, and I think that the Excellencies have mentioned that, is international cooperation, harmonization and regulation. It is very interesting and very exciting when we see everybody in the room here today, but with 2 or 3 regulations on financial markets in offshore centers, we can close all our financial markets down with know your client regulations and things like that. So we do need to ensure that Africa develops a harmonized regulatory framework that is able to correspond with the rest of the world so that we can assure this. And finally, women, again about the inclusion agenda. The 50% of the continent that is women must ensure, we must ensure with policy that they continue to contribute and benefit from this digital agenda. Today the numbers are widening, the gap is widening. Only 80% of women have access to the internet on the continent compared to men. And the men is 27%. So we do need to ensure that women continue to have the same opportunities like the men. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A very clear challenge. She's asked that by the next time we meet, that we have gotten to an average of about $10 when it comes to the cost of broadband. So a very clear target there. Moving forward towards a regulatory framework that is harmonized across the continent. And let us not make the mistake of also ensuring that as we march towards a transformed Africa, that we're leaving women and young girls behind. So as we begin to wrap up this conversation, I do want to say thank you for the special interventions. If there's one thing, Your Excellencies, that from this short, sharp, concise conversation that you would like the hundreds of delegates that are gathered here this afternoon to walk away with, what would that be? But I'm going to make your job a little bit harder. I'm going to ask you to give it to us in a headline. One line, the one thing that the delegates need to walk away with after this conversation. And I know that my colleagues from the media are all paying close attention, because this is going to be the headline on the newspapers tomorrow morning, and it is going to be the headline on the news this evening. So you have a big job ahead of you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first ask His Excellency President Boubacar Keita to give us his one line. The headlines, one sentence, Your Excellency. What would you like the delegates to walk away with?
Aujourd'hui, au moment où je suis ici à Kigali, 3 jeunes Maliens sont dans la Silicon Valley. Et ils étaient partis là-bas pour voir les possibilités de financement de leurs inventions, des start-upers. Et c'est ça l'avenir, c'est ça l'espoir. Et je pense que 3, cette fois-ci, mais la prochaine fois, il y aura peut-être une centaine. Mais au lieu que d'aller dans la Silicon Valley, ils pourraient venir à Kigali, Inch'Allah.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. So we have a little bit of an executive summary from the President instead of a one line, but from 3 to 100. 3 to 100 young people in Kenya unlocking funding for Mali and the digital startups in Mali. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We think we might hire you in the media yet. Okay, so I'm making my way over to Kenya. I'm buying you some time, President Kagame. So let me come to President Kenyatta. And Your Excellency, just one line. You have 10 words, essentially. What is the headline that you would like everybody to walk away with?
Breaking down barriers for Africa to take full advantage of our digital future.
Yes. Breaking down barriers for Africa to take full advantage of our digital future. It's 2 lines on the front page. I think we can work with it. And finally, President Kagame, the floor is yours. If you can get it under 10 words, I will trade jobs with you. Right. 10 words. What would you like everybody to leave with?
Everything we need for transformation is in this room or represented in this room.
Let's put it to the test. Everything we need for transformation is in this room or represented in this room. Can we give it to him in that way? Ladies and gentlemen, may we kindly give a rousing round of applause for our excellencies and the conversation. Thank you very much. At this moment, I'd like our excellencies to retain their seats, and I'm going to ask President Kenyatta to please take the podium. He has a special note, a special message that he would like to share with us this afternoon. Let's give him a round of applause as he makes his way to the podium.
Thank you. Your Excellency President Kagame, Your Excellency President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita, honorable ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I think the first thing I want to do is to express gratitude to you, Your Excellency President Paul Kagame, the people of Rwanda, for the warm welcome that we have all received here in Kigali. But turning to the issues at hand, Africa is on a cusp now of a major transformation. Unlike the rest of the world, we have a young, vibrant, innovative population that is brimming with immense potential. And we are the new frontier for trade and investment, with estimates indicating that by 2025, business opportunities in Africa will be approximately $5.6 trillion US. But more importantly, we have evolved platforms for driving this collective destiny of our prosperity. Our regional economic blocs, initiatives such as Smart Africa, that are all out there to harness the social and economic potential of this great continent. A fundamental element of this economic prosperity and our journey forward will be technology. And it gives us the means to circumvent deficit of current physical infrastructure as well as institutional capabilities, and it also enables us to leapfrog in that transformation. We have made great strides in harnessing and adopting digital technology for the benefit of our people, and indeed Africa is leading in some of the most advanced digital innovations, as we have heard today. Kenya, as I had mentioned earlier, with M-Pesa, has enabled us to expand financial services, improve business efficiency, as well as increasing financial inclusion. Drones here in Rwanda, delivering emergency medical services faster, cheaper, and safer. And there's also a growing number of e-commerce platforms that are creating new markets and enterprises, and the adoption of new technology is also opening up new opportunities for our young people to access well-paying online jobs. But we need to do more. And towards this end, indeed, as the champion for digital economy in the Smart Africa Alliance, Kenya has developed the Digital Economy Blueprint for Africa, and that blueprint is what we intend to launch today, and it is intended as a framework to guide us as we accelerate the adoption of digital technologies, and it is indeed my hope that all the member states will find value in contextualizing this framework to their specific ecosystems so as to realize the full potential of our digital transformation. The blueprint outlines 5 pillars for the development of a digital economy. First is the digital infrastructure and the availability of affordable, accessible, resilient, and reliable infrastructure. Ubiquitous and inexpensive internet connectivity for African businesses and households is critical to unlocking the potential of the digital economy. Connectivity needs to reach a certain threshold in order for users to access digital services. In Kenya, the total number of active internet and data subscriptions stood at 42.2 million in 2018. Broadband covers more than 45% of the population, and virtually the entire country now is linked to the national optic fiber, the broadband fiber backbone infrastructure. The second pillar is the presence and use of digital services and platforms to enable public service delivery. Currently, our government has over 200 digitized services offered through Huduma centers countrywide, as well as online self-service platform that we refer to as eCitizen. Both platforms offer a one-stop shop
For essential services such as applying for birth certificates, passports, national IDs, registration of business, and a variety of other businesses. Kenya has also taken the bold move to digitize core government services such as filing of tax returns, providing services through the iTax system, which is linked to our integrated financial management system, as well as to the Central Bank of Kenya. The digital system has helped to speed up assessment and service delivery of the country's tax administration. The third pillar of this framework is digital business, creating an enabling environment for developers and entrepreneurs to operate on e-platforms, and this is essential. It requires continuous review of laws and regulations to ensure that they support a robust digital market. Mobile digital payments, again, are at the heart of any digital economy. So the growth of e-commerce has actually, in Kenya, been underlined by the success of mobile money payments and platforms such as M-Pesa. With the ability to pay remotely through digital channels, without the ability to pay remotely through digital channels, it would be difficult to conduct economic business. Indeed, 39% of private enterprises in Kenya are engaged in e-commerce, and 70% of all e-commerce payments in Kenya are settled through various mobile money platforms. The fourth pillar is the innovation-driven entrepreneurship, the presence of an ecosystem that supports homegrown firms to generate world-class products and services, and this has greatly helped in widening and deepening of the digital economic transformation. Kenya boasts a robust, innovative ecosystem, and the Kenya government is working with innovation hubs to help in implementing lower entry barriers for ICT entrepreneurs to implement and scale their business in the country and beyond. There are currently 30 active tech hubs in Kenya, including some that are well known in the region, such as NILAB and iHub, and we're also working with the International Telecommunications Union to develop an ICT-centric innovation. The fifth and final pillar is digital skills and values. Digital skills are critical to digital entrepreneurship, digital adoption and transformation, and even to successful conceptualization and implementation of digitized projects in both the private and public sector. We in Kenya have invested heavily in preparing Kenyans for a digital economy through various skill development initiatives. Most notably is the digital learning program that I spoke about earlier, which we initiated in 2013. The program targets learners in all public primary schools and integrates the use of digital technologies in learning. Another notable initiative by the government of Kenya, engineered towards the development of digital skill sets, is the Ajira digital program. And Ajira aims to bridge the skills gap between demand and lack of jobs. It seeks to position Kenya as a choice labor destination for all firms and companies, as well as to encourage local companies and the private sector to create digital work. So the blueprint also highlights cross-cutting issues, namely legal and policy frameworks, emerging technologies, interoperability, and data management. And digital technologies bring out great opportunities, but we must never forget that they also introduce new threats. On a continent full of young people, we must work together to ensure that technology is not used as an enabler for social vices or as a tool to widen old divisions that have unfortunately characterized the African narrative, such as ethnicity, social class, religion, race, amongst other things. Instead, access to technology at its most basic level must be the bulwark for solving problems with new perspectives,
for creating exciting opportunities that empower our youth to determine their future, a future that guarantees equality and prosperity for all. Another critical challenge highlighted by the blueprint is the lack of formal or legally accepted identity for African citizens. Indeed, as was said earlier, only a few African countries have made progress in developing digital ID systems as a unique identifier for their citizens. This greatly hinders the ability to fully exploit the opportunities of the digital economy, which relies heavily on trust. Adoption of robust digital ID systems will mitigate the low levels of trust between different actors in the digital chain, and in particular, it will promote business-to-customer e-commerce. We in Kenya have recently embarked on the implementation of a digital ID, which we refer to as Huduma number, through which citizens will be assigned a unique and verifiable digital identity that takes them from cradle to the grave. We will all end up there one day, so it's okay. Yeah. The National Integrated Identity Management System also assigns a personal, unique digital identifier to all citizens, thus facilitating access to government services to all citizens at their home location. Your Excellencies, therefore, the blueprint that we launched today is also mindful of other continental aspirations, such as the Continental Free Trade Agreement, which facilitate the creation of a common digital market, and I continue to join you and others to encourage Africa to work together towards this end. To achieve this goal, however, we need to harmonize standards and to achieve interoperability in our digital platforms. We in Kenya stand ready to partner with all of you to share our experiences, learn from each other, and to work together in our journey towards digital and economic transformation on our continent. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I take this opportunity once again to record my appreciation of the time the members of the working group have invested in developing this quality blueprint, and this blueprint should be our guide in building a prosperous Africa that we all desire. Working together towards a digitally ready, smart Africa is the right strategy to elevate the quality of our life for all Africans and for meaningfully integrating Africa to the globalized economy. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and of course to Your Excellencies. I'm just going to make a quick announcement before Your Excellencies depart. If I may ask just for 15 seconds in the seats, and then we will release Your Excellencies. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have an important announcement to make. We know that the government of India has been on a very special journey over the last 2 decades, and this is a journey that has seen tremendous achievements in terms of building a digital economy. The government of India has come forward to share its technology and innovation insights from this journey with the continent of Africa. And so, for the very first time, the government of India and the government of Rwanda, together with the Smart Africa Alliance, will host the continent's first India-Africa ICT and ICT conference, and this is going to be taking place between the 5th and the 6th of August 2019 right here at the Kigali Convention Center. Could we give that announcement a round of applause? Ladies and gentlemen, at this stage, we'd also like to thank our heads of state, our excellencies, for your participation, for your leadership in conversation this morning, and we continue at this moment to release you to your exits. I will continue to make some announcements after our heads of state have departed, so I kindly request of you to please retain your seats. Can we give them a round of applause as they make their way?
televiziyo y'u Rwanda Transform Africa umunsi wayo wa kabiri ukaba rero uhumujanga ariko nta ibiganiro bizakomeza nyuma y'ahangaha ubwo n'igice cya mbere cy'umunsi BBO ngira ngo ni byinshi biganiriweho ahangaha kandi ngira ngo kubibona kuri b'igihugu ko ari batatu baje kwifatanya n'abantu basaga ibihumbi 4 no hino bitabiriye ino nama ngira ngo ni byinshi biganiriweho kuno munsi wa kabiri.
Haganiriwe byinshi harimo kurebwa uburyo Afrika nayo ubwayo ishobora by'umwihariko kuyobora kuko biranashoboka yuko yayobora mu bijyanye n'ikoranabuhanga. Ikindi nanone uburyo amakuru ashobora kubikwa muri Afrika kuko nyine nkuko nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika mu ijambo rye cyangwa se ubutumwa bwa nyuma atanze aravuze ati transformation yose dukeneye, impinduka yose twifuza muri Afrika irashoboka abantu bari muri iki cyumba baramutse babigezemo uruhare. Ati transformation yose turayifite hano mu cyumba cyangwa se irahagarariwe muri iki cyumba cya Kigali Convention Center. No kuvuga ngo iyo Afrika twifuza, Afrika y'ikoranabuhanga, Afrika yihagije mu ikoranabuhanga, Afrika ihahirana irashoboka. Abari hano mu cyumba cyangwa se abitabiriye inama bose bagiye bakabigira ibyabo kandi bakabigiramo uruhare. Iyi Afrika irashoboka.
N'ikindi kinagarutse nanone avuze kubika amakuru cyangwa se bino bubiko bakomeje kugarukaho ati yabigiranyije nuko umuntu agiye kujya muri Mali ugasanga anyuze mu kindi gihugu cya Korea kugira ngo arinde agera mu kindi gihugu. Ati kubera iki bino bintu tutagomba kubica tukuva ko ahubwo buri munsi ari ibintu bisanzwe. Abigeranya na telefone ati ushaka kuvugana n'abakuru b'ibihugu nk'abanga turi kumwanga ujya gusanga mpamagaye telefone ikabanza gaca mu bihugu bya kure bakabanza bakanumviza n'ibyo mvuga kugira ngo bigaruke bigire ko byari bigenewe. Ati kandi tukicara tukumva ko ari ibintu bisanzwe tugakomeza ubuzima. Ese iyo ni Afrika ko twifuza kugira ngo nari jambo rimwe bari babahaye aryanye kuri bihugu ko batatu bose icyo bavuga bagarutse ku cyo
uwamariwe yagaragaje yuko hari abahanga Afrika ifite bakora mu bigo bikomeye cyane by'ikoranabuhanga. Hari abo Afrika ifite ariko akifuza yuko abo bahanga bakwiyongera hanyuma kandi bakajya banitabira inama nk'izi ngizi zo ku rwego rwa Afrika zirimo gushaka uburyo Afrika ishobora gutera imbere. Ibyo ngibyo rero byose bikaba ari ibyagiye bivugirwa muri iyi nama ya Transform Africa. Hanyuma nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika rero we inama atanze akaba avuze ati iyo mpinduka yose irashoboka. Abari hano muri iki cyumba abitabiriye inama kuko Andrew urabizi bararenga 4,000 baturutse mu bihugu bitandukanye bose barimo kureba icyakorwa kugira ngo ikoranabuhanga ribashe gutera imbere.
Nibyo koko hatanzwe ingero nyinshi cyane kuko bibyo niba ubikurikiranye bagarutse n'ishoramari cyangwa se ishobora gukorwa muri Afrika mu bijyanye n'ikoranabuhanga ariko ntabwo ryakunda mu gihe hatariho ubushake bwa politike bw'ibihugu, mu gihe hatariho ibikorwa remezo birambye bishobora kureshya abashoramari kuko nuko twabikurikiye no ku munsi w'ejo hakomeje kugaruka ku kijyanye n'ibikorwa remezo kari yo mbogamizi ikomeye cyane ariko si ibikorwa remezo biramutse bijeho bizatubana ya internet ihenduka ko igiciro cyo cyakomeje kugarukaho cyane nanone kuboneka kwayo ushobora kuba ufite iyo internet ariko itanaboneka bati ese kuboneka kwayo yuko kugira ngo bigerweho birasaba iki ariko byose babihuriza hamwe bakabihuriza hamwe mu isoko rusange rya Afrika ariko ryifashishijwe ikoranabuhanga ko niba bavuga ngo ubucuruzi cyangwa se byayana hagati y'ibihugu bya Afrika bya hagati y'10 na 12% ni ikigero kikiri hasi cyane
ni ikigero kikiri hasi cyane rero nyine nkuko n'ubundi nyakubahwa perezida wa Repubulika yanabisobanuye muri kino kiganiro tumaze gukurikira yavugaga ko ibyo bikorwa remezo nibiramuka bishyizweho ikoranabuhanga rikiyongera ku mugabane wa Afrika no kuvuga nyine yego n'ibiciro nabyo bikagabanuka bizanatanga n'imirimo Andrew kandi kuko yavugaga ati create jobs hahangwe imirimo no kuvuga ngo urubyiruko turarufite kandi rufite ubushake mu ikoranabuhanga tubona innovations cyangwa se udushya twinshi bagenda bahanga ngire ngo no mu makuru yacu baraza kubibona hari na software ibuze kuba launched cyangwa se iza kwishyirwa ku mugaragaro yakorewe mu Rwanda ibyo byose rero bakaba bavugaga turubyiruko rwifitemo ubushake ndetse no kumva ikoranabuhanga bararyumva ariko rero ibyo bikorwa remezo nibimara gushyirwaho habayeho bwa bushake bwa politike bizatuma n'igiciro kigabanuka kandi nanone n'imirimo nayo ihangwe imirimo nihangwa no kuvuga ngo imibereho nayo izahinduka ubukungu buzatera imbere
nanone ikindi kintu cyagarutsweho ubundi hari amategeko menshi cyane abashizweho nabo twita regulators ahonga bakavuga ngo bakwiye ubundi korohereza by'umwihariko abashoramari mu bijyanye n'ikoranabuhanga umunsi baborohereje bati ubundi yabyise kari vice versa nuvuga ngo leta igomba gufasha urwego rw'abikorera kugira ngo bashyireho bya bikorwa remezo ariko n'abikorera nabo bakumva ko bafite uruhare mu kugira ngo babikoreshe neza bashora imari yabo ariko mu gushora imari ntibigarukira aho ngaho gusa bakarebera hamwe ese na wundi washora imari ni gute ashobora kunguka ariko adahenze umuturage kuko bose bicyo bagamije nyuma ya hose ni ukureba ko umuturage abona access ku internet kandi ikamuhindukira kuko imibare igaragaza ko 30% y'abatuye Afrika yose bari mu byaro kandi bari mu byaro koresha telefone kandi telefone twaje gusanga ko hafi 70% y'Abanyafrika bose batuze telefone ahubwo uburyo zo telefone zikoreshwa n'ikibazo ikindi kintu kugira ngo president wa Kenya agarutseho
ngira ngo ukivuga kuri icyo ngicyo cy'amatelefone n'uburyo akoreshwa nyakubahwa perezida wa Repubulika nacyo yanakigarutseho arimo aravuga ati tureke twebwe gukoresha iryo koranabuhanga dusoma iby'abandi ahubwo natwe dukoreshe iryo koranabuhanga natwe tubaha amakuru yacu kuko dufite inkuru nyinshi zo kuba twababwira dufite byinshi dushobora kuba twabagaragariza ikindi nanone tukiri no kuri iryo koreshwa ry'amatelefone kuvuga nyine turimo kwifashisha ikoranabuhanga iryo koranabuhanga nanone rishobora no guteza imbere inzego zitandukanye nk'uko perezida wa Repubulika yanabigarutseho ryifashishijwe wenda reka tuvuge nko mu buhinzi amakuru abahinzi bakayabona hakiri kare nabo bagakoresha rya koranabuhanga mu kubona amakuru no kuvuga y'ibihe imihindagurikire y'ibihe ndetse n'ibihe by'ihinga ibintu nyine nk'ibyo hanyuma abanyeshuri nabo bakifashisha rya koranabuhanga biga amasomo agezweho kandi nabo bakagenda ku rwego rw'isi itegereje ibi ngibi byose bishobora kudufasha ntitusome gusa iby'abandi ahubwo natwe tukabona umwanya wo kugaragaza natwe amakuru yacu
aho ngaho banabikomojeho neza perezida wa Kenya nanjye kukivugaho mu kanya gato yavuga ngo kugira ngo noneho knowledge transfer kuko urubyiruko rwa Afrika no munsi tuvuga ngo ibihugu 24 no munsi byo byamaze kwinjira muri Smart Africa byacyari bikeya bakibaza ese biramutse bibaye byinshi byatanga umusaruro iki ariko akavuga ngo noneho mu gihe dufite amashuri abana bacu ubwo n'ikibazo mu deta yaramubajije ati ese nko muri Kenya ko maze gutera imbere mu bijyanye n'ikoranabuhanga ariko mukaba gifite imbogamizi ibikorwa remezo mwakoze iki kugira ngo mugere kuri ibyo ngibyo byose yatanze ingero z'uko mu mashuri habashije gushyirwamo programme zijyanye n'ibikenewe ku murimo gukenewe ku isoko uburyo navuga ngo dukeneye kwamamaza cyangwa se kumenyekanisha ibicuruzwa nibi umwana akajya mu ishuri agiye kwiga kugira ngo ave ku ishuri ariko akaba n'ikindi kigo kimufata kimwakira kiva ku ishuri kugira ngo kimumenyereze umwuga noneho kinamugeze ku isoko ry'umurimo ati aha bafite database abana dufite imirimo nini ahanga dukeneye abangana gutya bakabahuza n'abana ariko nanone ibingibi tukabisanisha na services zitangwa ngira ngo President Kenyatta abikomojeho neza izi services zitangwa online ntanga urugero rwo mu Rwanda irembo kuza kuri ngo tugeze bahatangwa service 96 kuko ndasobaga imibare yashyizwe agaragara vubanga bagaragaza ko byura ku kigero cya 33% uno munsi n'abantu bayikoresha abakozi b'irembo cyangwa se abantu ku giti cyabo bakoresha iyo service muri Kenya bafite izo service zigera kuri 200 ubu n'urugero rwiza ku muntu watanzemo intervention avuga ngo mu gihe Afrika dufite ubumenyi runaka tukajya tubuhererana hagati yacu ahubwo ni gute dushobora kubusangiza abandi kugira ngo ibya Afrika ubwacu tuvuge ko bizaturuka hanze nko mukuru w'igihugu nk'uko yabivuze.
ngira ngo hari n'urundi rugero nanone rwatanzwe na Sofia umushyitsi wari utegerejwe cyane na benshi, ngira ngo twakomeje kugenda tubikurikira kuri Twitter uburyo abantu bagendaga bamuha ikaze. Ni robo umukobwa wahawe ubwenegihugu mu gihugu cya muri Saudi Arabia, aho yavuze birumvikana nyine arishimira kuba ari mu Rwanda, ariko yanashimiye cyane u Rwanda kuba ubu ngubu rwarashyizeho ikoranabuhanga ku buryo abagenzi bishyura bakoresheje ikoranabuhanga atari ya mafaranga, ni ukuvuga cashless. Iyo rero hakoreshejwe iyo cashless, ni ukuvuga rero umuntu aba ashobora gusevinga cyangwa se kwizigamira ku buryo bworoshye. Ikindi ya mafaranga ushobora kuyata ariko ari mu ikoranabuhanga nyine ntago yatakara. Ni byinshi rero twavuga nyine byavugiwe muri iyi nama irimo kureba uburyo Afrika ishobora gutera imbere mu rwego rw'ikoranabuhanga. Ngire ngo habakomeje kuyikurikira bimwe cyangwa se byinshi muri byo ni nibyo ahanini tugarutse Andrew.
Yes, niyo ngiyo ngira ngo katunashimira abantu bose babanye natwe kuri televiziyo y'u Rwanda ino nama Transform Africa ku munsi wayo gatatu, ku munsi w'ejo nabwo tuzaturanga kugira ngo tubagezeho ino nama. Usibye bino biganiro ariko no makuru yacu aba radio ndetse na televiziyo murakomeza mukuru cyane inama Transform Africa ibaye ku nshuro yayo ya gatanu hano mu gihugu cyacu cy'u Rwanda. Natwe katuruko gatoya turaza gukomeza nyuma y'ibindi biganiro bya televiziyo y'u Rwanda byose yabateguriye.